guys, and welcome back to a Nostalgic Friday. So this week, I'm going to be talking about cartoon reboots. So y'all know, like when you have a nostalgic show you loved from when you were younger, and you look back on that show and you're like, I wish that show would come back. And wouldn't you know it, sometime in the near future, the people behind that cartoon then come back and recreate it. But sometimes it may not turn out so great. But sometimes it may turn out good. Like, for example, the DuckTales reboot. People like that. And, well, I notice a lot of people, really enjoy it. Because I always see people talk about it everywhere. I'm like, okay. However, there are reboots that aren't so good, like Teen Titans Go. Although for me, I didn't really mind that show because I never really grew to love Teen Titans. Although back then I did actually watch a few episodes, but never became very interested in the original. Because, I don't know, just watching cartoons never really grew me to love, well, superheroes. I'm like, wait, but Sumner, what about Danny Phantom? He's different, okay? I mean, he's not DC or Marvel. Besides, I would prefer a Nickelodeon hero over any Marvel or DC hero. Even if they sound good. So, yes. So, I went online and actually found a list of cartoon reboots that were actually boring, but some that fans actually liked. Okay, so why don't we get on with it? Okay, so the first one that people find boring, the first one that is considered boring is G.I. Joe Extreme. I think that's how you say it. Okay, and well, it says in the 1990s, the idea of Extreme took hold in cartoons and toy companies. Sadly, G.I. Joe suffered badly with a truly horrific attempt at a reboot. The opening looks like what would happen if Rob Lefter turned to animation. The characters look ridiculous, and except for Snake Eyes, no classic Joes appear. Instead, we get guys like Savage and other names out of a bad 90s comic book. Far worse, we don't even get Cobra, but rather SKAR, Soldiers of Kuraz, Archie, and Ruin, led by the Iron Claw. The animation was horrible, with even worse writing and acting that went too far, trying to give extreme action in a PG setting. Michael Bay movies are more suitable than this cartoon. Thankfully, like many of the extreme wave of properties at the time, it died a quick death, but existing in the first place was an insult to the classic Joe fans. And on the good side, we got G.I. Joe Regrand. Again, I was never really a fan of any G.I. Joes, so I do apologize if I don't know I'm saying stuff wrong. Okay. The inspiration for this show is pretty obvious. The opening narration is straight out of the A-Team, accused of a crime that they didn't commit. A ragtag band of fugitives fights to prevent battle to clear their names. Yet it actually works out of the more realistic take on the franchise. Duke, Rip, Cord, Tunnel Rat, Scarlet, and Roadblock are sent to investigate the mysterious Cobra labs and discover them building deadly weapons. When the building is destroyed, the group are framed as traitors. They're now on the run, trying to escape. Their own person led Flirt and Lady Jared out the bridge them to bring them in. At the same time, they try to prove what Cobra is up to. The show did away with the classic lasers and super crazy plots. For a more gripping tale, the Joes have to handle being away from their loved ones and consider fugitives, even as they fight for what is right. Cobra Commander is not a screaming buffoon, but a truly brilliant, convincing figure who makes a terrified enemy. There's also how Flint and Lady Janet are slowly convinced of the Ranger's innocence and trying to get to them before Cobra does. The finale brings it all together, although sadly a second season never came, yet this worked well for a better take on how the Joes can work together. Nice. Okay, now on the boring list, it's Lunatics Unleashed. Why? That's all you can think of when you look at the above image. Why would Warner Bros. Decide that the classic Looney Tunes characters needed to be grim and gritty superheroes? In 2772, I can't say that. A meteor strikes a small town, causing many of the inhabitants to gain superpowers. An alien named Zerva chooses the descendants of the original Looney Tunes gang to use their powers to fight off the wave of evil villains who start to attack the planet. It's even worse than it sounds, trying to mix the usual Looney Tunes cartoon slapstick with superhero thrills. That was produced a disaster of epic proportions. Just imagine Porky Pig as a gangster, or the future tech aimed at the nuttiest. Seeing Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner on the same side is just wrong. Throw in the horrible voice work, and the show should have been leashed and kept from ever seeing the light of day. And okay, on the good one, we got X-Men Evolution. Okay, the 1990s Fox show managed to Danae's task of making slews of the complex X-Men mythos work in animated form. That was a pretty tough act to follow, but the WB version managed to pull it off. It shows the X-Men as a true school, recruiting new characters who are showcast as true teens with the unusual angst along with superpowers. The smart move was building up to make a I don't know how you say that. As the figure in the shadows, multiplying things that made his final debut at stunning moment that boosted the show up nicely. The series had a darker tone than the original, but managed to make it work well. Keeping mutants secret from the world was an encouraging touch that led to drama, with Mav something having a point of mutants just standing on their own. The third season had them explore the dealing with the public reaction, while the final season featured an epic clash with Apocalypse. While it was acts before its planned conclusion, this show still did a good take on the X-Men that could work in the MCU and pulled the complete arc off well. Yeah. Oh hey, what do you know? One of the bad shows I was talking about earlier just is apparently on this list. Boring Teen Titans Go. Oh boy. The first Teen Titans series on Cartoon Network was enjoyed for its fun storylines and how it balanced out teen moodiness with complacent superhero action. While it had to tone down some stuff, Deathstroke is simply called Slade, and it incorrupted everything from space action to Trader Terra and won fans over well. So it's no surprise why fans hated the transformation of it into a second-rated Powerpuff Girls. The show is all about nutty arcs as the characters aren't teens but silly kids. Robin is the straight man acting to Batman. Beast Boy a goof, Cyborg a gray, Starfire silly, and Raven the moody type. There's nothing wrong with lighting a show up, but taking a good show and making it a total kids property is something else. That this team got their own movie is just absurd. Yeah, fans desperately hope for a return of the Titans as true teens and not Todds. Okay, good. Okay, here's the good one, which is Transformers Prime. The animation could turn a few off, but this Hub Network show was a terrific return to roots for the franchise. It went back to the classic story of the Autobots and Decepticons fighting their secret war on Earth. A trio of teens fall in with the Autobots as a military agent also aids them in their quest. The stakes are high as Cliffjumper is bumped off in the very first scene. It's all building up to the first season finale with an epic battle against Urkor. I don't know how to say that name. Again, I don't know too many of these shows because I don't know. I never grew up with any of them, and I barely know them. So please, people, don't get mad at me for not saying their names right. Okay, it's hard to say them. The reason this show is a gem are the voices. At long last, Peter Klern and Frank Welker returned to voice Optimus Prime and Megatron, with Welker also doing Soundwave. Hearing these old enemies in their original voices is an absolute thrill for fans, as Prime led the heroic team while Megatron is right back to dealing with the backstabbing Starscream. It's really a great revival of the original property, and fans of the original series can thrill to the Transformers brought to life right for a new generation. All right. Oh boy, we got another one, and I tell ya, I've actually heard a lot of people say this one is bad. Powerpuff Girls, the new one. When the original show's creators slams the reboot, you know it's bad. Cartoon Network was already in trouble bringing back the beloved series with its quirky humor and girl power themes that had none of the voices of the originals was bad enough, but not even bothering to invite creator Craig McCracken made it worse. The animation looked good, but as soon as the episodes hit, fans were outraged. The show lacked the fun action of the original, instead throwing in horrible humor. Worse was the use of consumed memes that made it insanely dated. Throwing out some beloved characters just added to the wows, and that's without a now infamous backlash over its consumed animation and the addition of a fourth Powerpuff Girl. The show just was a huge letdown from the original. The girls should have been left alone. You know what? I did watch Powerpuff Girls, like the original series myself, and I kind of have to agree. Also, not to mention, one of my favorite voice actors was one of them. But no, you just had to go ahead and change them. This is like what I don't like about some cartoon reboots. They don't get some of the original actors, even if some of them are still alive. Well, then again, Powerpuff Girls was 1990, and well, you know, this was and you know, there are some shows that came out different time. Okay. So, next good one, Batman Brave and the Bold. Okay. At first, the cartoonish drawings were a bit hard to take, but soon fans were falling in love with this terrific new version of the Dark Knight's adventures. It paid tribute to the classic comic of Batman teaming up with a new hero every week. The teaser will have him working with a hero for some adventure before the rest of the episode had a new hero joining in. Visually, every major DC character and a few less known ones had joined with Batman for some truly fun adventures. The animation looks like a 1950s story, and the tone works too. Some plots can be clever, such as when Batman finds his mirror universe double, Owlman has framed him for crimes. Batman is thus forced to team up with the only person who believes in his innocence, the Joker. Oh my god. Batman has even teamed up with Scooby-Doo and Sherlock Holmes for the countless characters to the unique storylines. This may be lighter than other Batman shows, but also the most fun. Oh boy. Okay, so another bored one. Be Cool Scooby-Doo. It was always going to be hard following the Fantastic Mystery Incorporated series, but that's no excuse for how terrible this interpretation of the iconic Scooby-Doo series was. It has the gang going on a road trip around the country that infinitely leads to more mysteries. The animation is poor, looking like a bad MTV cartoon of the 2000s, and the characters come off parodies of themselves. Fred is more of a jerk, while Daphne is a goofball, and Shaggy and Scooby antics are worse than ever. Indeed, the show seems to illuminate Family Guy with toilet humor and far too much cutaway gags. The mysteries themselves are barely part of the plot, as it always focuses on goofy antics of the bunch and makes them a team who can barely stand each other. Thankfully canceled early in 2018. But hey, I mean, I know there's another new one that I guess is kind of like that show, kind of like that, I guess, one from, I don't know, like the 80s or something, you know, like the new Scooby-Doo movies is what it's called. Yeah, I mean, I've heard people kind of talk about that one and say how good it is. Yeah. As I was saying, early in 2018, fans hope the Mystery Inc. team get a much cooler ride next time. And yet they did! Okay, good. Oh boy. Okay, can I be honest with you guys? I hated this show back in my earlier years. Although looking back, I kind of had mixed feelings for it too. And what is it, you may ask? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012. Although today I'm kind of over it, but back then I have to say I went through a really cringy phase. And yet again, I do have some plans for the future with it. But I'm not going to say it yet. Let's just talk about it. After a couple of rough reboots, the Heroes in a Half Shell got their much overdue revival in this 2012 series. It puts a spin on the classic origin, as Splinter was a human who was exposed to alien energies while carrying his 4 pet turtles. He turned into a rat while they became human-sized. We then moved to the old formula of how Splinter trains them as ninjas to take on Krang and his ally. Splinter's old enemy, the Shredder. Okay, the animation is fantastic to make the fight scenes stand out nicely. The show does a good job turning April into a capable fighter as well. The Alliance's rivalry of Shredder and Krang is well handled, as the show delves dives deeper into the mythology of the characters. It ran for 5 seasons, and while a new version is out there, this was a terrific return to form for the TMNT mythos to rock as well as it did in the 90s. I mean, I didn't like this when I was younger, but and yet back in middle school, I was considered the kid who always hated it. Like, seriously, I had boys constantly like whisper turtles in my ear whenever I react. Yeah. Even though there were some things that kind of happened. Anyways, I'm moving on. Okay, so on the board list we got Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. Okay, the 1960s Johnny Quest was notable as being far more adult than other cartoons, even willingly to bump off characters. The character renamed popular enough for Cartoon Network to revive it in the 1990s. Sadly, this new version wasn't quite as fun. Despite aging up Johnny, Haja, and Jessie, two teenagers, the storylines could work in supernatural stuff like vampires, yet the science-based stories lack the same thrills of the original show and did a bad job ingraining sci-fi. The worst was when the characters would enter a visual reality landscape with horrible CGI graphics. Dr. Ben was a lab rat, while Ray spoke in a weird accent and a laid-back attitude. The second season corrected some of this, with Ray once more a government agent and Dr. Burnett is a fighter, but it wasn't totally enough to save the show. The only thing real about this series was how much it snuck compared to the original. Wow. Anyways, good. And it's another one I just mentioned at the beginning. DuckTales. One of the first and best of the 1980s Disney's cartoons, the original DuckTales boasts one of the best cartoon theme songs of all time. It also had fun stories as Huey, Dewey, and Louie hung with their Uncle Scrooge in a Valley of Wall adventures. The Disney reboot in 2017 has been a huge success by keeping to the same wild charm with the original show. This is a series where Don Krang of Tailspin and his air pirates stage a mid-air hijacking, all done with a musical number. David Tennant is a fun Scrooge as the kids have their own great chemistry. The show brings back the greatest characters like Launchpad and Gizmo Duck, but new twists such as how housekeeper Miss Bingsley is a former spy. The animation is shaped and the plot line keeps up the wild stories of the original for a new generation. Anyone who complains Disney can't make them like they used to, here's proof they can make them even better. Yeah, because you want to know why? Because Disney's so good at everything. Okay, another one on the board list, Rugrats All Grown Up. Although back then I was kind of okay with this one. I mean, I watched it. I actually remember seeing some episodes of it myself. But let's see what they have to say. The Nick series was one of the most loved of the 1990s, even inspiring a couple of movies. The arcs of this band of little kids playing together with fun animation made it a wild but fun show. Sadly, someone at Nick decided it would be a good idea to catch up on those kids hitting their teenage years. This totally ignored the entire appeal of the show, was watching a bunch of toddlers dealing with everyday life and trying to understand the world in their own ways. Who was really begging to see those kids growing up? The show was as bad as it sounded. Tommy has a fear of water after nearly drowning, which is hardly hardly a kid-friendly plot. Dill is shown to be mentally addicted to being dropped on his head as a kid. What? Angelica is every mean girl stereotype brought to life. What worked for funny bits for kids falls apart, showing them as teens and robs the charm of the characters. This entire cartoon is a key example of why some childhoods are best remembered but not revealed. Okay, I guess I can see why. Okay, now on the good list. Okay, Transformers Beast Wars. This could have been a mess, but instead turned into a wonderful and entry in the long-running franchise. The original concept was that the Magos and Furcons, I think that's how you say them, are descendants of the Autobots and Decepticons. They inhabit a far future Earth where they've taken on forms on the beast of the time. The Magos tend to be noble animals. Prime is a gorilla, while the Furcons are more mature. Megatron is a T-Rex as they do battle. The CGI animation was quite amazing from the mid-1990s and made the Transformers look even better. The characters were well realized from the put together to the scheming against each other. The show had cool turns, such as the realization the groups have gone back in time and would inspire their later counterparts, while the Beast Machine's follow-up wasn't as well received. This was a terrific way to receive the property of the 90s. Okay, moving on. Okay, on the borderline is Spider-Man New Animated Series. The 1990s Fox cartoon was a terrific series that brought Spider-Man and his adventures to life. Sadly, MTV, after trying to receive it in 2003, the idea was that it was a spin-off of the smash hit movie with Peter, voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, attempting college while continuing his life as Spider-Man. A subplot with Harriet Osborn blaming Spider-Man for his father's death and out for revenge. The only famous villains appearing were Kingpin and Electro, as the series seemed held back by how they didn't know what the next movie was going to be about. The CGI for Spidey didn't help, making the entire show look like a bad video game. The addition of a new love interest named I don't know how to say this name, didn't work as well as it should have and distracted too much. The show just didn't work for fans and was canceled after 13 episodes. This was one time the wall crawler failed to scale any heights. Wow. Okay, good. Now on the good list, we got Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. How do you do a proper spin on a classic Cartoon Network? Answered with this fantastic reboot of the Scooby-Doo saga in 2010. At first it looks like the classic formula, the gang going around solving mysteries. However, they soon start to run into actual ghosts and zombies. Also, a longer story arc is launched, revealing their small town is cursed and their own parents might be part of the plot controlling them. The layers of subplots and the character interaction was unlike anything seen before, and it clicked nicely. Shaggy is less the goof and much smarter than he seems, while Scooby has actual comeback skills. Daphne is a trained fighter, not a damsel in distress, and Velma stronger than she looks too. Fred actually comes off as a smart and able leader, handling all this. The series ran 52. Stupid Siri, don't. Siri, I didn't ask you anything. Okay, sorry. The series ran 52 episodes for a final conclusion to the show that you can make a classic cartoon work wonderfully for a new generation. Yep. Alright, let's move on. Okay, so on board we have Avengers Assemble. In 2011, Disney XD had a major hit with Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This wonderful series brilliantly mixed the scores of Marvel comic lore into the storylines for battling Ultron to the Skrulls staging a secret invention. The show has comic fans and in 2013, the network axed the show to make way for Avengers Assemble, which was obviously designed to tie in with the major movies instead of the classic costumes. Fans got more of the movie versions with characters like the Falcon added. The show has its moments including things like the Thunderbolts and the Squadron Supreme, but it just lacks the same care and charm the original series had. That was genius in reworking classic comic book epics into animated form, but the new series doesn't manage things like Secret Wars as well. The latest season was dominated by Black Panther due to his movie being a hit. The Avengers were much better on their own than tied with the movies to shine in animated form. Wow, just wow. Oh, anyways, good. Okay, She-Ra. There were doubts, but the reboot of the He-Man spin-off has become one of the biggest hits of 2018. The Netflix series has won huge praise from critics and fans for its stellar animation, but it also reviving the property of nicely for today. It sticks to the story of Ardal serving the evil horn, discovering she's really a heroine and using her magical sword to defend the people of Ithila. The show is stellar for its great supporting cast and fully rounded characters, all of whom can be inspirational figures for young female viewers. There's also the fun touch of She-Ra's rivalry with former best friend Catra and Harkness, a far more violent enemy. The storylines carry real-world problems, and the show has been praised for its bold, while responding. It's also a rip-roaring adventure series to push the Princess of Power as a star in her own right. Yep. And now we move on to the last two. Okay, next on the board list is New Adventures of He-Man. Oh boy. This was doomed from the start in the 1980s. Masters of the Universe was a huge toy line that inspired a hit cartoon and even the movie in 1990. An attempt was made to revive it by having He-Man leave Earth to aid a frustrated planet against some mutants. Naturally, Skeletor follows and leads the mutants himself for some clashes. The portrayal was there for some stuff, with He-Man dealing with a new world and allies. However, stripping away just about every familiar character, even Battle Cat, robbed He-Man so of many of his trappings. And then the terrible new design that cut down those famous muscles didn't help. Skeletor, instead of a threat, instead of a lame jokester, a bubbling fool. The animation was rough and the toy line a flop. It lasted an amazing 65 episodes, but fans prefer to ignore the new adventures of the classic He-Man and Company. Alright, last one that's on the good list is Thundercats. Alright, although I think you may remember I talked about this one in my, cartoons that were canceled way too soon video. Yeah. Anyways, recently fans were upset over the announcement of a reboot of Thundercats that makes it look like a comedy. The original 1980s cartoon is loved for the talent of a race of feline warriors battling on an Earth-like planet. From the Sword of Almas to the awesome bad guy Mumbra, to one of the greatest themes in cartoon history. The show is still a huge favorite of the time, amazingly. The 2011 reboot was perhaps better. The anime style drawing sparked up the action, making it flow much better and not just for kids. The characters were top notch, with Lionel growing from an errand punk to a seasoned leader. Trega was his adopted brother, who was jealous of Lionel, who grew to respect him. Having Shira in a love triangle with the duo could have been a mess, but it worked out with an independent woman. Mara was even more ruthless an enemy and even scary at times. Even the annoying scarf came off downright appealing. It only lasted 26 episodes, but this proved the Thundercats could roar as well in the 21st century as their 80s prime. Alright, and that's it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was pretty long, but hey, I enjoyed making it. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time.